Hello and welcome to Top Story. The cousin of a former Estonian president has been charged by the Estonian authorities with genocide for his part in the deportation of civilians to Siberian labor camps. Arnold Meri, who is now 88, was a member of a Soviet Red Army unit that rounded up 251 Estonians, most of them women and children, on Humar Island on Estonia's west coast in 1949. Mr. Meri admits that he participated in the deportations, but says he played a minor role. More than 20,000 Estonians were herded into cattle trucks in 1949 and sent to Siberia. Many of them died on the way, many more died in the camps. Like its fellow Baltic states of Latvia and Lithuania, Estonia was occupied by the Soviet Union in 1939 under the Ribbentrop Pact with Nazi Germany, and then reoccupied by the Red Army at the end of the war. While Moscow portrays the occupation as an act of liberation from Nazi Germany, most Estonians regard the years spent under Soviet rule as a period of subjugation and fear. Well, joining me now from Tallinn to discuss the charges against Mr. Meri and their likely implications is Estonian journalist Tarmo Tammerk. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. All other considerations aside, given the recent relations between Russia and Estonia, particularly the movement of the war monument, Russian war monument to a place outside the centre of Tallinn, this is really going to stir things up again between Russia and Estonia, isn't it?
It's quite likely that relations will be more tense again, although as of today there is not a very strong statement from Moscow yet, but it's very likely that tensions will heat up.
Wouldn't it be better, do you think, to let bygones be bygones? I mean, as an aide to Mr. Putin put it, to stop looking into the past and looking into the future?
Well, what we have here is not exactly, an academic, very in-depth investigation. This is a criminal investigation, and crimes against humanity is something that do not expire. And when we have a look at how similar things are being treated in other countries, we can see that such things are being pursued, most notably by the Nazi hunting Wiesenthal Center, for example, where people of the same age as Arnold Meri, people 80 or 90 years old, they have to be responsible for the crimes that they committed during the war.
Why is it so important for the Estonian people that you should be looking into crimes like this that happened so long ago?
The thing is that there has been no proper assessment of those crimes. And the idea behind these investigations, which have been going on for a long time actually already, for many, many years here, is that an assessment, a proper assessment needs to be made. Otherwise, it will kind of be open forever that when you committed crimes for the Soviets, under the Soviet regime, it's fine. When you committed crimes during another occupation which Estonia had, which was a Nazi occupation, then these crimes have been internationally condemned and many trials have been held, while for the Soviet crimes it has not been possible.
It's not how Moscow sees it. The Russian authorities say what's happening in Estonia at the moment is they're looking into the crimes committed under the Soviet period, but they're not looking into the crimes committed during the Nazi occupation of Estonia.
Well, these crimes have also been investigated, so these have been parallel processes, actually. I think it's slightly sort of political interpretation by Moscow of the way that these crimes are being investigated, but it's clear that both things are on the table, and it's also clear that internationally there hasn't been such a big trial as there was against the Nazis, and that's why it has been quite hard, both in Moscow and perhaps in some other countries, to understand what's going on.
I suppose, too, it's a question of how far back you go and how deeply you should pursue this. You could start ending up arresting people for crimes committed when they were serving the Soviet Union as late as the 1980s.
Well, if they really did commit crimes against humanity which are not expired, then it's clear it will be up. But in this particular instance, we have a person who admits that he, Arnold Meri, participated in the deportations, There were people, older than 75, many young children, 6 years, 5 years old children. He was part of this very specific operation, and he has said several times he feels no remorse. He feels it was important for the Soviet Union to conduct these operations. He simply says that his role was not so big as the Estonian state prosecutor state. But I mean, it's outrageous if someone today in the year 2007 says that deportations of people, including very small children, elderly people, to Siberia, it was necessary for the Soviet Union's policies to remain in place in an occupied country.
Well, this seems to be a reasonably clear-cut case, but if you look more recently, for instance, people who served in the KGB, who acted as informers whilst the Soviet Union was still in position in Estonia, things aren't so clear. Should cases be brought against people who served for the KGB?
Well, if they did commit crimes, specific crimes, while serving there, then definitely.
I suppose the question is, what is a crime?
Well, a crime is something if someone has been doing bad things to another person who has suffered, for instance, by being sent again to Siberia, which was the case as late as in the 1980s. Then it's clear that the person has to be responsible for these things. If a person was simply working in the KGB as a low-ranking official who was simply shifting papers from one drawer to another and could not have an active role in sending people to Siberia or imprisoning them for life or whatever, then these people are not being investigated today.
I suppose the Estonian authorities' response to the Russian authorities it would help a great deal if Moscow were to take a more honest approach to what happened in that part of its history just after the war.
Well, I think this is part of the big controversy around the case of Arnold Neri and other similar cases, that officially Moscow has never recognized that something went wrong in 1940. The official line pursued by President Putin is even today that Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania joined voluntarily the Soviet Union, and all it happened on the territories of the Baltic states was a part of a legal process, and there is nothing to complain about. And this is, of course, something with which the Baltic states and Russia cannot go on living peacefully together. Moscow must say something, just like the Western countries have said they have admitted that there was a Soviet occupation. If Russia did it, I think relations improved.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to Tarmo Tammerk in Tallinn. Join us again next week for another edition of Top Story. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.